This training lesson covers the topics of list controls and combo boxes. List controls in particular are one of the most useful user interface controls that are available on any type of Windows application. And Visual App Builder has a great deal of the functionality that's available in list controls and combo boxes. Combo boxes basically being the same as a list control, only having one column of data instead of multiple columns. As you recall from our previous lesson, we created a modal dialog box with a list control within it, where we displayed the item ID and quantity out of a sales order table. And the way that we populated that was within our sales order init application. was within our sales order OK application, where we used a list combo box object and we selected the method called populate from file. There's more than one way to populate a list or combo control, and so we'll demonstrate that for you now. We can use an object called update control, and within this object we can select our list control. And at the time that we update the control, whatever is in the record buffer that's specified in the list control itself will actually create a new line, either a new entry in the drop-down list or a new item line in the list control. So for instance, an alternate way of populating this list control, rather than just populating from a file, might be to go ahead and bulk down, as we do in this example, our sales order detail file, and then to read this file one record at a time and to update the control. The object type that we use for reading from flat files, such as the bulk file, is a lookup type of object. So rather than populating the list, we'll read the first record. So this is a new object, the lookup object. Within this object we can choose a method of either sequential search, binary search, or we can simply walk through the flat file one record at a time using the get first record, get next record. We do need to specify the file itself, which is our so.dat. Now once we read the first record, it populates the record buffer, and the record buffer is defined under our file tab, and here are all the elements. There's only two of these elements, the quantity and the item ID, that we're actually using in the list control itself. So once we read the first record, we'll go ahead and update the list. As we've done here, that'll cause a new entry to be written to the list. Then we'll read the next record. Again, this is the lookup object. And here we'll use the method called getNextRecord out of so.dat, and again we'll go back to update the list. And so we'll stay in a loop in this method in this way until all of the records in the flat file are read. When we try to execute the getNextRecord and it fails, we'll go down the error object path, which will return OK, and that will conclude the population of the list. So let's go ahead and save that and try it out and see if that doesn't populate our list in the same way that using the single method within the list control object called populate from file works. Now you'll notice it may take a fraction longer to populate the list this way. It's because we're performing several operations as within separate objects rather than using the power of that populate from file method that's available within the list combo item object. So if you have a large number of entries, or expect a large number of entries in a list, you're far better off using the populate from file. But there'll be some instances where you'll need to do cross-referencing on each record as you read it, in which case you'll need to manually add each record as we've shown in this example. Another important aspect of a list control is the ability to save an integer value with each one of the records. This makes it much easier for identifying records in the database. As an example of this, we'll go to the list control itself, and you'll notice that item data, this is a term that comes from the Windows 32 application programming interface and the Microsoft Foundation classes. And you'll notice that we can specify an integer value in here, such as the item index, which is a long integer. And that way, when we go to select a record out of this list, we can retrieve this item index in order to be able to go do various SQL commands. The list object method that we use is get item data. This is what we would use to actually retrieve that item data value from each record. We had specified a search from the top of the list, and to get selected items only generally is what we do in order to do a lookup out of the database for a record that was selected by the user out of the list. And then we could save that value into a variable. Another important aspect of list and combo boxes, and lists in particular, is the ability to assign actions to the list control, just as we've done with other controls, in particular buttons in earlier lessons. And the types of Windows messages or events that a list can respond to are item changed, and in particular we use a great deal is select item. This way, when a user clicks on an item in the list, we can go and execute a procedure based upon that selection, and in that procedure we might pull the item data back out and look up the record and either make a change to the record or delete the record or do some further processing based on that. There's a great deal more that you can do with list controls and combo boxes. Please see some of the sample projects for a more thorough and detailed examination of the functionality available.